The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. I'm Cindy Russell. I'm the Product Marketing Manager for Red Hat Insights, and I have on the line with me today Jerome Mark, who is the Product Manager for Red Hat Insights. We're going to be taking you through an Ask Me Anything, a bit of a webinar series, and so we'll be showing you a brief overview of the new drift capabilities that are in Red Hat Insights, showing you a demo, and then most importantly, taking your questions. This call is being recorded. If you object, you can disconnect at this time. With that, I'd like to turn over to Jerome. Go ahead, Jerome.
Thanks, Cindy, and welcome everyone. So quickly about me, I joined Red Hat 7 years ago. Some of you might have met me in person in maybe Australia or New Zealand, where I started as a solution architect. I then transferred internally to join the management business unit at Red Hat and relocated to California, where I'm based today. For the last 2 years, my focus has been on Red Hat Insights. And in particular, I'm responsible for a couple of insight services, Drift, and policies. So the agenda for today is all about showing you Red Hat Insights and how it can help you perform your day-to-day tasks. I've prepared a quick overview of its capabilities, and I'll be demonstrating them live in the second part of this webinar. So finally, for closing, we'll be taking some of your questions. So you can already submit them using the question section panel on the right, on the tool. So let's get started. So first, a quick reminder. Red Hat Insights was introduced in 2015. It's a software as a service offering from Red Hat, available on cloud.redhat.com. So Red Hat Insights assesses your RHEL environments to help you proactively identify immediate threats, avoid outages, and plan downtime, and risk to security and compliance. The Insight does it by analyzing your system configuration with an intelligent rule engine to identify issues, often before they occur. It also provides steps to take to resolve the issue, as well as an automated remediation playbook when it's possible. So if you're not familiar with Red Hat Insights, it includes a number of services for security and operational efficiency, and it's included at no additional cost as part of your Red Hat Enterprise Linux subscription. This is true for any supported version of RHEL that has access to Insights Client. So that's basically RHEL 6.4 and above. So if you have a RHEL subscription today, that means you already have access to Insights, and you can start using it and do everything that I'll be showing you today. So Insights was previously known as a single service, now called Advisor. In recent years, we've extended its capabilities by introducing new services to help you with key use cases around operational efficiency and security and compliance risk assessment. In this slide, I first wanted to provide an overview of each of the services, now including as part of Insights. So Advisor highlights availability, performance, stability, risk based on recommendation from our support experience. Vulnerability assesses, remediates, and reports on Red Hat Enterprise Linux common vulnerability and exposure, also known as CVEs. Compliance assesses and monitors regularity compliance and is built on OpenSCAP, which is the open source implementation of the Security Content Automation Protocol standard. Drift, the main topic of this webinar, enables you to compare system profiles either over time to baselines that you have defined, or to other systems to identify differences and troubleshoot issues. And policies lets you define and monitor against your own policies or internal rules to identify any misalignment. For example, making sure all systems have a firewall or a disk encryption software installed. Patch analyzes your systems to make sure they are up to date with the latest Red Hat product advisory applicability. And finally, while not directly part of Red Hat Insights, all RHEL users also get access to Subscription Watch to track progress of the Red Hat subscription usage. So let's focus specifically today on drift capabilities. So as I mentioned earlier, drift enables you to analyze configuration changes that happen over time in your environment. You can also compare RHEL systems between each other and see differences and similarities between their configuration. Drift provides the ability to create baselines that the system can be compared to. So these baselines can be created from scratch as a copy of an existing system configuration or as a copy of a previously defined baseline. As we will see shortly in the demonstration, Drift provides a set of tools to analyze your configuration and comparisons. You can, for example, filter information out or highlight the information you are interested in by hiding irrelevant data. Finally, all functionality provided by Drift can also be requested via REST APIs. This is useful for automating the creation of baselines, for example, or produce comparison reports that can be exported both as JSON and CSV files. So ultimately, Drift is a service that helps sysadministrators troubleshoot the system's configuration and identify changes that occur intentionally or not in their environment over time. So let's jump right in and look at the Drift service in action. And what I would like to do to demonstrate today is to show you how Drift can help system administrators on their day-to-day tasks. So I've listed here a couple of queries that Drift can certainly help for when it comes to analyzing RHEL configuration. And for example, identifying unexpected changes in configuration, comparing systems from different locations or different infrastructure, maybe ensuring that all configurations are in line with a defined standard. And if not, we might be interested in finding out, when and how they started to drift away from the baseline. So let's switch over to a live environment on cloud.redhat.com. And that's my second tab here. As you can see, I get access when I log in. I'm already identified as Jerome Mark. I get access to a couple of services on cloud.redhat.com. The one we're interested in today is Red Hat Insights. So I can directly select it and be presented with the Insights interface. If it loads up. So straight away, I get the dashboard. That's basically information about my inventory. So all of the system registered in my inventory and what I need to take action on. So here I have recommendations on maybe issues that have been noticed in my environments around vulnerability, compliance, for security reasons, the updates available, as well as my subscription utilization. If you notice on the bottom right side, I also get some news, some information that might be useful for me today. So here, for example, I get information about the different webinars that we have scheduled. So one for Drift today, and then another one next month for Patch. So today we are focused on the Drift service. You can see on the menu on the left-hand side all of the different services. If I click on the Drift and navigate to the home page of Drift, I'm presented with a screen that prompts me to select systems that I want to compare. So I'll just look up for a system in my inventory. I'll look up for the computer I'm presenting from, RHEL 8 desktop. It's checked in 2 hours ago. That means Insights client did run 2 hours ago. And I will select also, the last few days to make sure I'm comparing my configuration. Click Submit, and this will basically look up for the configuration of this system today. That's the gray header, and in the last few days, highlighted in yellow here. On the left-hand side, you can see all of the different facts for my configurations that we are capturing and showing up. And what I can do is quickly identify, what is, for example, different. So Here I have filters on the same states, same value, different values, or incomplete data when we are missing some of the elements. I might filter down this view, to simply show me all differences in my environment over time. If I expand my install packages, I can see that some of the package version changed over time. I can also use a functionality called reference to set one of the selected comparison as the point or the standard I want to compare all of the others to. So here I've selected my current configuration, and I'm comparing, the configuration yesterday and days before to see the differences. So you can see that Drift quickly highlights, what's different from today, and show it on the screen here. So now we have just compared configuration of one system over time. What I can also do is simply add another system to this comparison. Here we will add my laptop to basically see the configuration of this laptop compared to my desktop. And what I will do, laptop appeared in the last position, I will make it a reference to really compare my system, my laptop to this desktop. I will filter by installed packages just to make sure I only look at the RPMs. And again, I see differences between my laptop today and my desktop today. But I also see that these two computers got updated recently as the configuration differs from my desktop a few days ago. So really allowing me to troubleshoot what happened in this environment, what are the differences between these configurations, and when and how it happened. So another feature of Drift, like I mentioned earlier, is baselines. So creating some kind of standard that you want to compare your systems to. Here I've created a couple of them. If I look at a particular baseline, it's basically a set of fact, name, and values. So here I have OS release 8.2. I can, of course, edit these facts and change those values manually if I wanted to. But if I go back, I can also create a baseline. So like I said, manually from scratch, or as a copy of an existing baseline. So if you want to create a versioning, for example, of your baselines, or a copy of an existing system. So that's what we are going to do here. We are going to select my RHEL 8 desktop and create a RHEL 8 standard baseline. And this simply duplicates the configuration, the current configuration of my system into a baseline. So not all of these facts are interesting for baselines. What I like to do usually is keep my installed packages, maybe making sure it's managed by satellite, OS release, OS kernel, and then delete all the other facts. So here you go. I created a very simple baseline just to show you, and including all my RPMs. And what I'm going to do is use this baseline in my comparison now. So go back to the comparison screen and select my baseline, L8 standard, that's the one I just created. And well, my desktop and my laptop this time. Click submit. And once again, use it as a standard. So looking at everything that's different from this baseline by setting it as a reference, so that it really highlights, okay, what differences I have between all of these systems. So here, desktop obviously is the same. We created the baseline from this particular system, but baselines against laptop has a couple of differences, mainly open, like you can see, kernel and the architecture version. We are running on different infrastructure here. All right, all this information can be exported, as you would expect, as a CSV file. So here I just generated one by clicking on this icon. But what I wanted also to show you is advanced capabilities around APIs. First of all, maybe you have noticed or not, I left the URL intentionally in this video so that you could see that all of the system IDs were actually appended to the end of the URL. Let me copy it in a document here. Oh, I don't seem to be able to. Control A, Control C. Oh, well, you will have to trust me on that. But basically, all of the here you go. All of the URL are appended. So baseline ID, you see, is presented. System IDs, and so every time you select a particular systems, it's added to this URL. So that's useful when you want, for example, to send this particular view to a coworker or keep it as a bookmark to analyze later. You simply copy the URL and that acts as a bookmark. What I wanted to also highlight is that we have a full documentation on the APIs that you can use, not only to compare systems, but also to create baselines. You can access it from the cloud.redhat.com directly by clicking on the little question mark icon and API documentation. And they are all documented so that you can even test them online if you wanted to. So here I click on the Drift API. You see I can generate all of my reports. We'll have a look at that. I also have some for CRUD operation on baselines. So creating, updating, deleting baselines or changing their values can all be done via API. And historical system profile. So access the history of my systems. So changes of configuration over time. Again, can all be accessed via API. So that's what I want to show you today. Here I have a particular comparison report. So I can simply do a get message on this API. That's the Drift API with a comparison report. And I've specified system IDs and baseline IDs, similar to what we did visually from the UI earlier. I'll simply collapse the facts there just to show you what we are comparing. RHEL 8 desktop, that's the system we are looking at, and RHEL 8 standard, that's one of the baseline I've created earlier. And here again, I get as a JSON file all of the values for both the baseline and the system, as well as comparison state, if it's different or not. If I wanted a CSV file using the API, I could simply add a header specifying text CSV, and rather than having this JSON file, I will get a CSV file. I can also use the baseline API. So here I click on my baseline API. That's really the list of all the baselines that are currently available in the system. We've created RHEL 8 standard baseline, so I can take this ID and append it to the end. I didn't copy. I can append it to the end of my URL and get ready all of the facts that we've created previously, with the name, install packages for categories, all of the PMs and their version, and then OS kernel, OS release, and satellite manage. So you can see that you can really, export this, for example, in a GitHub repository, and perform lifecycle management of your baselines outside of cloud.redhat.com. And so that's what I have done. I've created a little repository here on GitHub, and show you really how to do that. So I have a baseline that's simply the demo baseline with fact name, just to show you how simple it is to create new baselines. Maybe you can automate this process and store them in your own GitHub repository for lifecycle management. I think the one I want to use for this example is the baseline number 3. I called it webin hub baseline, and it contains a set of packages and a couple of normal facts. So what I will do is simply use this particular GitHub file, in a CRUD command to hit as a post request my cloud.redhat.com API, and simply with a JSON as a data body query to create a particular baseline. So you have it in a terminal there. And if I run the query, it's done, and go back to my baseline menu, I should now see the webinar baseline that we've just created a few seconds ago. So this one was created via REST API using a post request. So you can imagine how you can manage all of your baseline outside in your own private repo, maybe automate the creation of them, and then import them automatically and use them in your comparisons. I think that's all I wanted to demonstrate today. So before we start answering questions, I wanted to quickly mention some of the enhancements that we are working on for Drift specifically. So this includes the ability to compare system tags in the same way we compare facts today. So as well as selecting system by tags. We like to enhance the filtering capability to filter comparisons using more complex queries. We're also implementing a report of all changes the system has experienced. So you'll be able to download it without having to perform all the steps to get similar results as I did earlier. And finally, another feature we are looking into is to display or highlight other information in Drift about your system configuration. So for example, if an update is available for a particular RPM package, it will be highlighted directly in the comparison so that you can take a look at it. So all, well, this is like all SaaS software, we try to release very often. And so you should be able to see some of this feature appear in Drift in the next couple of weeks. And of course, if you have a suggestion for improvement of Drift or any of the Insights functionality, I would encourage you to open the RFP request for enhancements on the Red Hat customer portal. All right. And with this, it's time for questions. So I turn it over to, I think, John is on the line, who has been monitoring the Q&A section to select some of the questions you have been asking. John, you here?
Yeah, Jerome, I got one here that I wanted to make sure you were answered live. Question regarding the historical data. How far back is this historical data kept for comparison purposes?
So for comparison, we keep the data up to 7 days. So that means that you can compare with a couple of days, maybe up to a week, basically. After that, the data is gone. So we just keep it for comparison purpose for 7 days.
All right, the next one is apologies, somebody just rang my doorbell. Next one is a very common question we get with Insights, and I'm happy to answer it if you prefer, but is there an offline version or an on-prem?
Oh, you're cutting it. I don't know if it's only for me, but the answer to the question is currently the Insight services are only available on cloud.redhat.com. So there is no offline version available at this point. But maybe, John, you can add something?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we get asked this question with Insights a ton. It's probably the #1 question we get asked in general, because it is a software as a service offering. It does require a connection to the internet. So while that is true, we also like to share that it's much like many of the SaaS services that a lot of companies are using.
All right. So I'm not hearing John anymore, so I don't know.
Whoops.
Oh, here you go, John.
Did it fade out? Sorry. The more information that you redact, the harder it gets for us to share findings. And as mentioned, Drift particularly works on facts. So if you start obfuscating facts, then there's information that we can't report on.
I'm not sure if we've lost John or not on the audio, but I'll go ahead and pick up on some questions. So the next one that I see is it possible to use the WUI to schedule and email reports, or would you have to hit the API to do that?
So right now with Drift specifically, that's the functionality we are looking into. Today you will need to use the API to generate this report and send it. But that's definitely something we are looking into. I'm working as part of Insight on another services called the notifications, and this will be basically the go-to to set up alerts and notification that you want to receive based on all of your services. So from there you will be able to request reports that you want to receive, maybe a daily summary of all the information that is being recommended by Insights in your inbox. But we are looking at other channels of communications as well, such as webhooks. But definitely something that we will be leveraging when it comes to the Drift service to forward comparison reports and differences that have occurred in your environment by email, for example. Right now, using the API, it is possible, but in the future, yes, using the notification service that come in a couple of months, you should be able to do that automatically.
Okay.
All right. Apologies, I think my mic died, so I swapped mics while we were answering that question. Hopefully I'm back.
Okay, great, John.
We get a couple questions here about Insights itself and Drift. Is Drift free, and is this service free as long as we have subscription? So those are two different questions. I think they're really the same question.
Yes, and I touched upon this a bit at the beginning. So Drift is part of Red Hat Insights. There is no need for any additional subscription. So as soon as you look at Insights, you get access to all of the services available within Insights, including Drift. Now, Insights is also part of your Red Hat Enterprise Linux subscription. So there is no need for any additional subscription. So really, if you are running RHEL today with a subscription, you have access to Red Hat Insights and all of the services that we provide as part of this offering.
Yeah, and to be clear, that's any version of RHEL. So if you're workstation, developer, server, Insights is included as part of your RHEL subscription pretty much across the board. The only actual exclusion to that I'm aware of is embedded RHEL. So if you're buying something that has RHEL embedded in it, that's the only exclusion I know of. But anything else, if you have RHEL, you have Insights, and Insights includes Drift as one of the services. All right. For the offline version of Insights question, do I need to repeat that answer? I don't know when you guys lost me.
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea, John. Thank you.
So we lost it again.
What? My signal is strong on this end. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah, I just asked if I needed to repeat the Insights offline answer.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah, so Insights is software as a service. Drift is part of Insights. It does require a connection to the internet. However, if you're leveraging satellite already, satellite is used as a proxy by default. So if your hosts are registered to satellite, satellite proxies that information to the internet. If you don't use satellite, a web proxy is 100% supported. It's really easy to set up in the Insights client configuration. So there are ways where not every host has to directly connect to the internet. We do support proxies. It's a very common scenario. We also encourage you to take a look at the information that Insights collects. You have full control over it, and you can even deny particular phrases, such as maybe your domain name or your company name, so that information never goes to Insights. Next question is this, be it Insights, be it Drift, going to integrate somehow with Tower, and is there an Ansible underlining?
So there is already an integration between Ansible Tower and Red Hat Insights. So you can, there is a very good documentation page on the Ansible Tower documentation, which is basically syncing up your Ansible Tower with Red Hat Insights inventory and presenting recommendations for each of the systems you have in your inventory. So this is existing already. I think it allows you to automatically remediate, so perform the steps to resolve issues via Ansible Tower. But I think, John, there is more coming. Maybe you can touch on that as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of capabilities within Insights. You know, Drift is one of 6 services that are included. I believe we have other webinars planned for the other services. Drift doesn't today have, you know, any real actions on the findings, but a lot of the other services, be it the advisor service, which has recommendations for common issues, the vulnerability service, which highlights CVEs, compliance service, which, you know, looks at industry compliance such as HIPAA or PCI DSS. All of those have automatic playbook generation as part of Insights. So it will generate a playbook to fix issues that it finds, and then you can download that playbook and run it. If you also have a smart management subscription, that includes Satellite, you can, as of Satellite 6.7, configure something called Cloud Connector, and that creates a connection between Insights and your Satellite. So when you create these playbooks for advisor, for vulnerability, for compliance, for patch, you can actually run them using your Satellite infrastructure. So that goes ahead from cloud.redhat.com, generates the playbook, and then sends it on to your Satellite, and your Satellite executes it using Ansible remote execution in Satellite. So yeah, there is absolutely some Ansible integration. The creation of the playbooks, that's included as part of Insights. If you want that next step where it runs it for you, that's part of the smart management subscription and does require an extra subscription. Everything else that we've talked about, other than that run playbook button, part of Insights, part of your RHEL subscription. Let's go back. We have a question here. I answered it, but it's particular to Drift. It just says Drift is acting effectively on facts, correct?
Yeah, basically that's what it is. So I mentioned also the roadmap where we will add tags, but today, yes, it's acting on facts. So when you upload your payloads via Insights client to cloud.redhat.com, this payload is analyzed and we create a system profile. Again, you can access this via APIs, but this system profiles is a collection of facts, name, value pairs. And so that's exactly what we present in the Drift application to compare systems over time against the baselines or between each other. Yes, so that's definitely the facts. Like I said, we are going to add tags to it. So tags are the metadata that you can add to your systems. So if you want to, for example, look at where this system is located, on which internal infrastructure you are currently running, you could add your own metadata under the tags for each of the systems. And in Drift, you'll be able to compare this metadata in the same way you do comparison of facts today. So really extending the Drift capabilities to your own metadata that you want against your systems.
Is it possible to use Drift in a mixed network? For if I have some servers that are RHEL 8, some are RHEL 7, and some are even non-RHEL, such as CentOS, is it possible to control all of them?
So Drift can work on any systems that you have in your Insights inventory, right? So that means right now all of the RHEL systems that have the Insights client installed and sending their facts effectively to cloud.redhat.com. So CentOS is not currently supported. You are not allowed to, or I don't know if it's not allowed, but you cannot run Insights clients. There is no client for CentOS today. So you will not see CentOS in your Insights inventory, and as such, Drift will not be able to run a comparison against these hosts. However, I mean, all systems present in your inventory can use the Drift capabilities.
Yeah, this next one, Jerome, we may not be able to pull the answer to right now. We're going to ping some folks in the background. We have one that says, we use Center for Internet Security for our RHEL baseline standards. Is it part of OpenSCAP provided by Insights? This probably has more to do with our compliance service. So I'm not sure, Jerome, that you're able to answer that one, but even if we don't know the answer, we can follow up and find out the answer. But I don't know that one, so.
We'll probably need to follow up. However, I mean, I wanted to point out because I showed baselines as a way to perform a comparison of my packages there because it was a very simple demo to show for this webinar. However, as you can imagine, this is a powerful feature. You could model your compliance or security policies that you have in-house using a baseline and use that as a way to validate or verify that all of your systems have the right maybe packages, maybe the right version of this, maybe some other security configuration that you want absolutely to be present on all of your systems. So, opening up the door to additional baseline security validation, of course. And like the question mentioned, we have other services like vulnerability, like compliance with OpenSCAP, where you can do similar things. So yes, but we'll probably follow up on this one, John.
All right. Next one. Can satellite organizations be used to limit access for a given Insights user to only systems which are in their organization? And if you want me to take that one, I can.
Yeah, you can probably explain the RBAC mechanisms that we have in Insights today.
Yeah, so right now, we don't have a real relationship between satellite organizations and what you see on cloud.redhat.com in terms of Insights. Insights works at an account level. So it is possible within a satellite, if you have multiple organizations, you could potentially have multiple accounts. So if you have maybe a European subsidiary and a North American subsidiary, they might be different organizations in satellite, each with their own unique customer or account number on access.redhat.com. If that's the case, by default, it's going to be split because at cloud.redhat.com, you can only see at the account level. You can't see multiple accounts. So when you log on to access.redhat.com, those are the same credentials that we use on cloud.redhat.com. There is role-based access control mechanism within cloud.redhat.com. It's kind of in its early days. So certain services have permissions and roles available. So you can have a user on access.redhat.com and you can restrict to a point what they see in cloud.redhat.com. So you can remove their permissions to certain services entirely, or you can make your organization administrator may be a super user and everybody else may only be more basic users. We don't yet have like a viewer or anything like that, but by default, cloud.redhat.com is split at the account level by default, just because of what we use for sign-in mechanisms. All right, next one here. I already dropped the answer in the chat. I remember once there was a demo using TCP dump to capture upload data from Insights to prove all data shared with Red Hat is appropriate. I wonder if there's an article about this test. I don't know if it's an exact, one-to-one of what you're referring to, but there is an article that I linked to in the Q&A for an article called System Information Collected by Red Hat Insights. And I commonly just go to Google and type in that phrase, what does Red Hat Insights collect? And it's either the top result or maybe the second result on Google when you search for it. This article tells you how to generate a collection through Insights. without uploading it to Red Hat. So it generates that collection package. It's a tar, so you can just take that tar file, you can review it, you can see exactly what is sent to Red Hat, and then you can send that onto your security team, let them review it, and then if you happen to search that article, at the bottom of it is a link to related resources, and one of those talks about how to obfuscate the IP addresses or how to use that YAML style deny list. All right, Cindy, I've been trying to go through. Are there any other questions that we haven't taken care of or we need to review?
So it looks to me, John, like we've answered all of them. So I would say at this point, last call, if you have a question, go ahead and put it in. And Jerome, why don't you go ahead and advance the slide and I'll start the wrap-up process for the webinar. Okay, so the first slide that we have here, these are some additional resources that you may find helpful to you. The first link that I'm showing here is how to get started with Insights if you're not using it today. You'll find full directions on how to go ahead and get started at that link. The second is some more technical documentation on the drift feature that we've discussed today, which I'm sure you'll find beneficial after listening to the webinar. And to the right, the two resources here will take you through some of the new features that we announced at Summit around Insights. So those are both overview pieces of content. Next slide, Jerome. And so our vision for this series is really to do a bunch of Ask Me Anything webinars so that you have a chance to do some deep dives with our experts on the various new features that are in Insights. The next one webinar that we have coming up is Patch, and that's going to be held on August 12th. There's a link there for you to register. We're using the same time slot, so it's going to be 11 a.m. Eastern time again. And then we'll follow that on September 3rd with Jerome is back again. He'll take us through the new policies features that's in Insights, and you can use the link there to register as well. An easy way to stay on top of these is if you look here on the box, the webinars and blogs box, there's a little icon at the bottom of the Insights dashboard that you'll see there. If you open that, there's a list of webinars and blogs, and you can click to register for each one of them there. Okay, and then this deck I will send to you when I send out any reminders and follow-ups from the webinar. Several of you have asked for some of Jerome's more technical documents as well, which we'll include in that link as well. With that, are there any last questions, John, that have come in?
Yeah, there's a couple that just dropped in, or one. Going back to the question on the historical data for comparison, is there a way that you could control how long that historical data is kept or archive it somehow? And I presume, if we want to keep longer than the 7 days.
So interestingly, this is an environment variable that can change, and we could certainly expose it to each account. Today, that's not the case. It's not currently exposed, so you cannot change this 7 days limit. However, this is a feature I would encourage you to request, using the customer portal, because it's a very easy one to add. For us, it's just plugging it to the UI because the variable is already there in the backend.
Okay, and John, anything else before I wrap the call?
I believe that was the last question. Really appreciate all the Q&A and the time from all our attendees.
So with that, thank you. I hope you all have a nice day. Thank you for attending. I hope you found the information useful and helpful. Have a nice day.
Thank you, guys. Bye now.